Welcome everybody to our channel, our Scientology stories, Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and we want to welcome you to the channel. And I want to bring in my co-host right now, which is Janis Gillham Grady. Hi, Janis. How you doing?
I'm good. Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We have an exciting show for you today. Mark,
Yes, we
go
do.
ahead.
And we've got a special guest that we interviewed last week. And this is going to be a viewer question and answer for our special guest, Mitch Brisker. And you can ask him whatever you like. All you need to do is just go into the chat, into the comments section of the chat, and write your question. If you've got a question, please write question in front of it, because it makes it much easier for us to spot and to star it so we don't miss it. Okay. You're also welcome to super chat us if you want to super chat us, super sticker us. We appreciate any donations that come our way. And you can do that as well. And we will be answering your questions. Okay. At any rate, anything else, Chance, before I introduce our special guest?
No, I think we're ready to just roll.
Yeah, I see people are in here in the chat room right now. And we're going to go ahead and introduce this gentleman. It was a former Scientology director of all their technical films and public films. And we interviewed him last week. And I'd like to introduce again, Mitch Brisker. How you doing, Mitch?
Hey, I'm doing great. Mark, I got to tell you, when I hear you say former, it just, my heart glows with happiness. Anyway, but whatever.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, well, it's the truth. So there's nothing like the truth.
Yeah. People are getting into the chat right now and into the watching and stuff. So I just wanted to ask you, Mitch, now that you're back in here, you've done an interview with us and also an interview with Aaron Smith-Levin. And is there anything that you wanted to say from that before we start going to questions from, our viewers?
Well, it's been really interesting. I found out, thanks to Aaron's viewers, and Aaron and I, by the way, have agreed we will be doing a lot more, but I found out from some of his commenters that I'm severely ADHD and that I'm a Miscavige apologist and that I'm on the payroll of the Church of Scientology. So it doesn't really explain why I don't know where my next rent check's coming from. Anyway.
He's kidding, folks.
Yeah, but got to keep the lights on. I mean,
I know.
But this ain't paying for it. But anyway, but here's the thing, I'm going to just let my hair down metaphorically, because obviously I can't really do that. And I'm going to tell you that some of the comments were negative. Within 24 hours, they trended very positive. But overall, looking at them, it was a great opportunity to get a reflection of me. And I sort of wondered, well, why are they responding the way they are, some of them? And I realized that, Aaron asked me why I'm writing a book, and I didn't have an immediate answer because I'm still on that journey. But the reason is I wanted to take a 50-pound sledgehammer and I wanted to smash every last little bit of cult out of my brain. And I realized, listening, and that's what my book is. It's a 50-pound sledgehammer that I wrote, not for money and not for revenge, but I wrote it for me so that I could wander around in there like a madman and just smash it all apart. And I realized, listening to how the people responded on Aaron's channel, that some of them, that, there's still like maybe some shards of this cult that are lodged in my brain. And they were like picking up on that. So, okay, thanks for letting me know. I really appreciate it.
Sorry.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know how else to encapsulate my experience, but.
No, that's okay. I thought you did a good job. I mean, it's never easy, particularly when you're newly out, to basically speak out for the first time. And, that's why we wanted to give everybody a chance to ask questions, and also for you to tell more stories if you like as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was working on my quote unquote out for 15 years before I actually made it official. So, it's a long journey, and I don't have the kind of necessarily the horizon other people have. It takes 10 or 20 years. Some people say whatever. So that's another reason why I just wanted to smash it to shreds, and I'm doing pretty good with it. It's pretty amazing. I think I'm doing it. I mean, like I said, it's the reason I wrote a book. I think there's things you can do that can really accelerate the process that you need to go through. I think, I had my time sitting around for a while playing video games, doing nothing. And then you come to a realization that you need to really confront what happened for yourself and for other people, because we're kind of all in this as humanity, which Scientology would rather separate you out from humanity and convince you that you're a super person, which is really damaging to your mental health, as are other things. So,
we're getting a lot of positive comments in the comment section, like "Smash it good, Mitch," "I get you, Mitch," and all that. So
great,
it's good.
Yeah.
And also, I wanted to tell you,
to be gotten.
Also, we got comments too, but on our first interview from people that like Jeff Levin. He wrote a wonderful comment regarding you and your professionalism and your expertise. And then I know you got a couple from people who you used to work with in the Gold Crew too, correct?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you an interesting anecdote. When I was on with Erin, this young woman, a musician, very talented girl, you know her, Laura FM.
Yeah.
And she sent a live text while I was on. Hey, Mitch, do you know my parents, Phil and Diane Anderson? Which I knew them very well. I worked with them for years. I had forgotten that I'd worked with them. I first met them working with Jeff Hawkins before I ever went to Gold. But the amazing thing was, here was this girl. Oh, there's a guy, he worked at Gold, and maybe he knows my parents. And, she's reaching out because she wants to know. And then the next day on Instagram, a guy, a very talented photographer who used to be in the Sea Org, his family's in the Sea Org, he reached out to me from Switzerland and asked me, and I thought at first it was like an OSA bot, trying to penetrate my social media presence. And then I realized the guy was sincere in it. And his sister joined the Sea Org when she was 14, and she's on staff at Scientology Media Productions, and I worked there for a couple of years. And he was reaching out to just get any news of his sister. And I knew her not well. I didn't really interact with her, but I certainly knew who she was. She's a very talented digital artist. And it just broke my heart. I mean, I just peeked into the YouTube universe, and two people went, my loved ones, do you know anything about them? And I'm like, whoa, it's just, Scientology is so disrupting to families.
Yeah.
When you poke your head out of it, people are like, anyway, it was, so I was happy to know them both. Laura and I have shared lots of stories. And that's not my dog, folks.
Nor mine. Hey, Mitch, I was actually thinking when you brought that up about people contacting you because of missing family members, when you were on the Free Winds, did you ever know of an Andrew Barton? He's the younger brother of Liz Ingber and Jeanette Nettie Alcock.
No, I don't think so. But my time on the Free Winds was, I was there shooting a project and getting a tan because, I was like, I'm probably the only person that ever went to the Free Winds as a tourist. This was allowed to be a tourist. Oh yeah, the last time I was there filming for a Gold project, I got a note. Well, actually, it was to the whole crew, but it basically said, "Mitch better come back with a tan," meaning I hope you haven't tortured this guy to death that he didn't have, And I had told the crew, this is a funny story. I said we had like 4 days on the ship, but it was really only 3 days worth of work. So I said, hey guys, why don't we just get it done in 3 days and take a day off? I mean, we're in the Caribbean. And they were all like, Sea Org members can't do that, right? So anyway, we did it. We did the work in 3 days, and then I just, did some exploring, and I laid out in a lounge chair for hours while the crew, pretended to be busy for a day. But the note, thank you. But the note that said you better come back with a tan, they started enforcing that. Like, are you tan? Are you tan? Did you get a tan? So maybe this is just too strange of a story, but it just shows you like anything he says is like an order,
Yeah. Well, when I finished the maiden voyage mission, getting the Free Winds launched, I had, after the mission, I had 24 hours off waiting for mission ops approval to go home.
Right.
So I spent the day down at the beach and speedboats, driving around and having a good old time. I came back with a tan.
Yeah, it's great.
Should people be penalized? Why should people be penalized for taking some time off? I mean,
yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, you know, there's people on that ship that haven't left in years and years, decades. It's just like at Gold. I knew people that hadn't been outside the perimeter fence for 20 years. They didn't even particularly care. You know, it's like Bruce Springsteen said, you can get used to anything. After a while, it just becomes your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's really kind of sad.
That's what I think with Shelly Miscavige. She's gotten used to things that has become her life, and that's
totally.
And within that life, she finds her own happiness, where she doesn't know what real happiness is.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't have any access to media. I'm sure there's no way she can get near an internet-connected device or television, or they just won't let her do that.
They probably don't even have cell phones. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely not anywhere near a cell phone. At least that it doesn't go through some kind of a server that's heavily controlled. Like that's why they love BlackBerry, because BlackBerry, you can have your own cell phone server, and they got away from BlackBerries, but that was their communication device du jour. But another thing I got a little misunderstood on Aaron's channel was I made this analogy about the difference between quality of life and standard of living, right? Standard of living being an objective measure of creature comforts, what you have, and quality of life being a subjective measure of happiness. And although the standard of living influences it, I was saying how the guys at Gold, they have an okay standard of living. I kind of exaggerated. I said they had a gourmet chef. They don't. But the food is nourishing. It's good. The rooms are nice. The linens are nice. But your room is going to be searched without you knowing at any time. You cannot have pictures of your family. The things that would then equate to making you happy, like being able to maybe have a hot plate in your room, you can't even go to your room during working hours. It's not even really your room. It's the place that you have permission to go sleep when it's appropriate. So I was trying to make this balance between, they have a fabulous Italian baker who makes fresh bread and it's super tasty. But I think people might have misunderstood what
and the other thing too, Mitch, is that you don't have civil rights when you're a Sea Org member. Do you know what I mean? In other words, your basic civil rights, freedom of speech, all the different freedoms that we enjoy in this country. When you're in the Sea Org, you've given those up to the Scientology and the Sea Organization.
Yeah, entirely. But they're not violating. But by their definition, they're not violating your civil rights. They're maintaining security because they're doing an important mission, and they can't have anything threaten that mission, because that mission determines the outcome of all of humanity. So it's not like
you're talking about in their minds, right?
Because that's what I'm saying. By their definition,
yeah, exactly. If you told them they have no right to search my house right now, and they shouldn't have any right to search my room.
Nobody does,
but they did because we went along with it.
Absolutely, because you were part of the mission.
But even this thing of no family photographs or anything, where did that come from?
Well, I think that was from Miscavige. I think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just that's secondhand anecdotal. I mean, I certainly saw people's rooms.
Yeah.
And I never saw, and on people's desks, you didn't see family photos and stuff.
Yeah, but, that's his insanity creeping in.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I'm sure that that may have changed at Gold since he hasn't been up there since maybe 2013, for sure 2014.
What are they doing up? Can you tell us what they're doing up there? Like, is the cine shoot crew still shooting movies?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of work. I mean, if one thing can be said, I'm trying to think of the proper way to phrase this. Okay, so Gold produces all of the audio visual stuff for the Scientology media productions for the TV network that's not episodic. Like if you look at their programming, there's a bunch of stuff that's their episodes, like Inside a Church and Something of Humanity, blah, blah, blah. They're like a series with installments. And then there's films about L. Ron Hubbard. Gold does all the films. The tech films that I completed a few times, those need to be kept being refreshed And those are, very high quality films that they built that studio that you're looking at.
Yeah.
They built that. You showed your viewers the gym. I mean, we got so much done in the 90s when I went up there that Miscavige was like, we need to build a studio. So they built that studio basically because of my production. I mean, I'm not going to, that sounds kind of egotistical, but we did come up to a level where we were producing that enough that he wanted to build a studio. And that's that studio that you just showed a picture of. I mean, you have a picture of the inside of it, don't you? I think somewhere.
I've got this picture here.
Don't you have yeah, I'm not in that picture because every time they would do these setup pictures, that was probably a project I was working on, but I would just run and hide. I don't think anybody wanted me. I didn't want to be in because it would look so weird. You got all these guys in costume and then there's me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, costume in their uniforms. So I would very politely sort of duck out. But look at that studio. If you notice on the back, there's a blue screen.
Yeah.
It's actually a cyc, which is called a cyc. It's curved from the floor up and it's curved around to the right. And it might be the biggest permanent cyc, which stands for cyclorama, in Southern California. It's one of the biggest in any studio ever. So, and if you look at the ceiling, it's an unbroken span. There's a grid up there that's like I don't know how to say it. It's like you could drop a rope down anywhere. This studio was a function of studying every state-of-the-art studio in LA and in Orlando, where there's Universal has some advanced studios, and they incorporate a lot of technology. One of the unfortunate things is you can see the floor is cement, which is kind of nice because you can polish it up and put varnish on it and actually shoot the studio floor. But it's not healthy to walk around on cement all day. So a lot of studios use live wood floors, so it gives the crew a little cushion, so they're not all crippled by the time they're 50. But
can I ask you, Mitch, a question?
Sure.
This is state of the art. Like, let me ask you this, because the old gym had no air conditioning.
Yeah, it was horrible.
In between shots, you could turn on the blowers. Did this place have air conditioning?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It didn't actually have air conditioning. It had an advanced evaporation system with an entire. It had an outbuilding adjacent to the studio, where it had a massive cooling system, and then it had a room inside the studio that moved air, and it was comfortable when it was 110 outside. So it was not. I mean, of course, because it was built so would people stay in there 20 hours a day and shoot. So.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you remember what it was like in the gym in the summertime. I mean, it could get really hot in there with all the lights and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nobody's mentioned the flies and the stink of the dairy farms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did everybody forget?
I'd forgotten. I remember that. That also was really bad.
Also, the turkey farm. There was a turkey farm.
There'd
be all these turkeys, and then right before Thanksgiving, they'd be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a couple of, gold is located in, it's in Riverside County, and that county has, both that and San Bernardino County are two of the more corrupt counties in California. Corruption being, the metric of corruption being the number of times there's been legal problems with the government. They're very corrupt. And there's dairy farms. Gold's in a dairy farming agricultural area, and I'm sure for a bribe you can get the county health people to lessen the restrictions on the regulations on your farm. So that place, I mean, I drove through a dairy farm, hours of dairy farms, let's say in Montana, and I never saw a fly. You could roll the window down, and the air was it smelled like a dairy farm, which is kind of a nice smell of hay, But you go to Golden, it's just like your eyes would water. I mean, the first time I went there, I was like, "Oh my God!" And you have then you'd have flies, and then wherever you have flies, you have spiders. So it was like, man, it was like a real party when it came to like the insect world. Anyway, whatever.
Because that was just on the other side of the levee of the river that flooded.
Yeah, you could see the dairy farms. I mean, it was not.
I remember that. When we first moved there was no dairy farm. It was just open land.
Really?
Yeah, it was not.
Well, there was originally that area. Sorry, let me interrupt you a second. Originally, that area was one of the areas in America where thoroughbred horses were raised. It was like second to Tennessee. That area was very very active in the world. I mean, I've shot on location. We went to a couple of we used to shoot at a place when we needed a ranch, a nice looking ranch, and they had multi-million-dollar horses. That,
right.
They let us use them in shots in the background and stuff. And then that all, I don't know why, but the area continued to, that area has been in an economic free fall for a long, long time, the quote unquote Inland Empire,
Right.
Which is a weird, anyway, they call it the Inland Empire. I get inland, I never got empire.
Yeah.
It's just a place you want to drive
Exactly.
through. It actually, interestingly enough, when I was researching my book, the name Inland Empire comes from the late 1800s, when they finally connected in that area a railroad to San Francisco, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles. And so a bunch of land speculators needed to brand it somehow to try to exploit this new, the new possibilities of having that kind of transportation. So they came up with Inland Empire, but it was like a bunch of hucksters who wanted to sell land. So anyway, the place has always been, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mitch, I wanted to ask you, I just want to remind our viewers, if you've got a question, we're going to go to questions for Mitch here shortly. Just put question in front of them in the chat. You can super chat us, you can super sticker us too, but we're going to go to your questions here shortly. But before I do that, I wanted to ask you a question, Mitch, that I had on my mind. When we left, Miscavige had his basic little entourage, right? But he traveled commercial airlines. He didn't have a security guard or force or anything like that, or a bulletproof van. Do you remember? I mean, you weren't around him all the time, but do you remember when you saw that start happening?
The switch.
Yeah, and he started flying private planes, right? Because you said you were on a private plane with him. I mean,
one time.
What was his lifestyle like, and who were these security guards and stuff? I heard they weren't even Sea Org members.
Oh no! The security, they were. I never spoke with any of them because you didn't interact with them at all. They're like Secret Service. Like, you don't interact with the Secret Service, right? Their job is to be on alert, not to be talking with people. But one of them at ASI was pretty smiley, and we talked a little bit. But to me, I always assumed they were like ex-special forces, like contractors.
Right, so they weren't Sea Org members.
No, because the PAC security or any Sea Org security is going to have a uniform on.
Right.
They don't go plain clothes, but these guys wore, desert. They all wore the same desert boots, and they all packed the same Glock, and they all have this same kind of demeanor of guys who, had gone fought in the Middle East.
So they were armed. They were armed security.
Yeah. They all carried sidearms.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know when it happened. It might have happened around 2008 when Anonymous happened.
And he's kept it ever since.
Yeah, because remember, there was a big. They uncovered a kid who I think went to prison who had a sniper rifle, just completely psychotic kid who had nothing to do with Scientology, and he was plotting to assassinate Miscavige. So that kind of upped the ante. Of course, it also gave them a lot of fodder to say that the anti-Scientology movement was fostering violence, which is like saying the Beatles music inspired a kid to kill John Lennon, therefore it was fostering violence. I'm sorry?
Do you think they would have made that story up, or it was real?
No. I think that's a matter of public record, and that you could look it up in the things like that you don't make up because it's too easy to discredit them.
Right.
Yeah, no, but it was a real threat. I mean, there have been some real threats, nothing close, but I think that made him kind of super paranoid. I also think that when he left, I don't remember when it was. I know that I went to ASI to work with him in 2014, and he'd already been gone. That was like maybe late summer, but he'd been gone for a while. And then I spent like a year and a half down there working with him. But I mean, before he left, or maybe after he left, when I saw him, I don't remember when, because, you know, I never thought in the future I'm going to talk about this, so it never had any context of importance. Like, oh, make a mental note, that's going to be important. You know, you sort of lose track of things. But he did tell me that he was never going to come back to gold because there were so many people that fucked him over. So, and I was thinking, and
not the other way around.
Yeah, well, if you believe in Scientology, hold on one second. Well, you can't really see it, but right here in this book, The Introduction to Scientology Ethics, sorry if that triggers anybody, it does say that a person only leaves, you know, a company or an area or something because he's committed crime. So, you know.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. So I thought, Mike Rinder pointed out that that there was also fear of an FBI raid, and he didn't want to be up there. But my cult brain is starting to kick in.
Let me ask you another question about Miscavige. Was he always approachable? Like, could you always approach him if you saw him around the studio or whatever? Or like,
well, you have to be like any really important person. You just have to be cognizant of what is happening at the minute. I mean, if he seems to be in an intense conversation with people, you wouldn't walk up to anybody in that context. You'd give them. But under sort of a normal circumstance, walking by, whatever, generally speaking, the time that I spent with him was because he stopped to speak with me or he called me to a meeting. I can't remember a time when I ran up to him and said, "Oh, sir," I actually didn't never call him sir until the last couple of years I was there and I don't even know why I did it then. I don't know. It was weird to me. It was weird. I just didn't feel comfortable.
Let me ask you another question now. I just want to follow up.
Does that answer your question?
I just want to follow up on it. You know, before you got there as the director, of course, we had Sea Org members directing, and Miscavige would come down to the set all the time and look over their shoulders and criticize things.
Yeah.
I'm assuming since you were a professional, he gave you room to do your job. Is that right?
He never did that.
Yeah.
He never did that. He went out of his way to make sure that I had space.
So you could do what you wanted to do. Right?
Yeah, and then he made sure that he put other people in charge of it. Jackson can tell you about that.
Yeah.
He when he reached out to me, he told me that he was in charge of my clearances and he was in charge of my security, and he was in charge of making sure that the staff were, on the ball. You know what I'm saying? They were like not.
Let me ask you another question, a different angle on this. Okay, you obviously met Tom Cruise at some point because he was around the gold base. Yeah. What do you think Tom Cruise's influence was on David Miscavige and vice versa? Do you think there was any influence? I'm talking about in terms of how they led their lives and that type of thing that DM had on Tom Cruise.
Well, you're asking me for some really extreme speculation, but
okay. No, I just from your observation, your opinion. That's all.
Yeah, if I was, I mean. Okay, so I used to see them hanging out a lot at the base. Those guys are like two brothers that were separated at birth. I mean, sometimes I would look at them and think I had a friend that close. I mean, they were like really friends. I've also heard that Miscavige would pop open Tom Cruise's folders and like share intimate details and blah blah blah. So.
He did that with me.
Yeah, I'm sure, because he was like an all over the map guy. Nobody is one thing. A person can be, Miscavige went out of his way to get a kitchen built in the dining room that was state of the art. He brought in big portable restaurant trailers for like a year so they could clean out the galley at Gold and build this completely state of the art kitchen where they could provide really good institutional meals.
We were there. Janis and I were there. We ate out in the tent outside.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. But then there were times when that kitchen got used to make nothing but rice and beans for a month. So it's like, how can you do one and then do the other? So he's a very complex individual in that way. Do you get what I'm saying? That you could care enough to do this one thing, which is completely confidential and behind the lines. Nobody's ever going to know that he did that, right? He's not doing it as a public show. He's doing it really because I care about the crew. And hey, you guys screwed up. So, I mean, it was a month or 6 weeks, the longest it ever happened, when, me and the other pros were sitting at a table being fed, and actually being served. We didn't even have to serve ourselves, while the entire dining room is full of Sea Org members who were eating beans and rice and trying to be really creative about it, mixing them with different hot sauces and really like enjoying and like not complaining about it, like kind of trying to make a joke about it, because that's what you have to do in that situation to survive.
Yeah. Let me ask you another question. Let me ask you another question about that. I don't know if you heard these stories after you left or when you were in. I mean, were you aware? Not, you probably weren't aware when you were in, right? But have you heard the stories about, Miscavige basically having Sea Org members as Tom Cruise's home staff, and
I know all about
maids
that.
and butlers
I
know
all about that.
What do you feel about as a professional and as a person? How would you feel if he had that in your house?
Well, your question, I believe, is loaded with the idea that how would I feel if it was forced on me?
Well, I would
asking. Not like that. Yeah. But how would I feel if my best friend, who is the leader of this church, of this religion that I really believed in, and I believed that their organizational tools and that the training of their staff, that these were the very best people. Like, you'd be lucky to have Sea Org trained or Scientologists as your staff, and then they were taking charge of doing the staffing, the man up. Internally, that looked like nothing weird about that, nothing at all. It was like, of course you do that for Tom. He does, Sea Org members would do things for Tom because Tom brought so much recognition. Like, he could say, I'm a Scientologist in a particular context that millions of people would hear it. Of course, we all know it got unhinged, and we know it didn't really go well. And Tom, I've heard a lot of stuff about Tom. I'm not an apologist for Tom, but I had a number of interactions with him, and he was always really gracious to me. And I had dinner with him and Miscavige and some other people at St. Hill, and he was terrific. And I spent 4 days on the set of War of the Worlds. He'd invited. He told Dave, hey, look, if you want to have a couple of the gold guys, like Mitch, I don't know if he specifically identified me, but I knew him. If you want to have them come and hang out on the set and observe. And I was having a lot of problems with the gold crew in terms of how they did their backdrops, right? Because they had no technology for doing backdrops. So, and plus I personally really wanted to watch Spielberg direct. So I went back there for 4 days and took about 1,000 pictures and solved the problem of how they do backdrops at the highest level. But my point is, the day in that film, if you remember the film, there's a scene, it was a helicopter shot, and Tom's character is in a crane, like he's a stevedore, and he's operating a crane. It's a beautiful shot. And it was on the Brooklyn docks, and he got up at probably 2 a.m. to go shoot that sunrise shot, right? And so I watched that whole day's of shooting. I got there about 7 a.m. and I watched how hard he worked all day long. It was pretty intense, and how focused he was. And then at the end of the day, Spielberg wanted to do the shot again at sunset, just to make sure they had it and see which one was better. So now by the time they wrapped, it must have been 9 o'clock at night. So this guy'd been up since 2 a.m. and now it's 9 o'clock at night. And that shooting, the location was done in coordination with the Longshoremen's Union. And part of the deal was you could bring in some families and they can watch the shooting. There was about 100 people, families, right, behind a barricade watching the shooting. And at the end of the day, they all lined up. Cruise's people helped very politely organize them all in a line. And he went down that line and took pictures and talked on cell phones and chatted with people and gave his, and it was amazing. I mean, this is a guy who knows that he is where he is because his fans love him so much. Yeah. And a lot of actors aren't that way. So I always respected him. And, I think if somehow the reality distortion field got shut off that he's in, first thing he'd do is call his daughter.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you the reason why I asked that question, because
I'm going to get a bunch of shit now.
No, I was around.
Apologizing for Tom Cruise.
No, you're not. You're not
telling you what I know.
Trust me, I appreciate your opinion. But the reason why I asked that is because I was with Miscavige for the last 6 years. I was in the Sea Org, and I was there when he met Tom Cruise and when they got in and all that sort of stuff. And not just me, other people noticed a change in Miscavige after he got connected to Tom Cruise. All of a sudden, he was no longer just a Sea Org member, meaning David Miscavige.
Right.
You know, I mean, he had to have his stuff tailor-made. He had to do all this stuff, almost like he was competing with Cruise, you know. He had to have a new car. He had to travel, you know, on a plane, things like that. So that's why I asked if
not competing, but he wanted to be at that level in that lifestyle. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it changed both of them profoundly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it had a huge influence on Miscavige in terms of the quality of life of a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think it had a huge influence on Tom in terms of how one conducts himself in life and what the real priorities are in terms of how to make humankind better. And I don't think he knows, because there's a superficial mission that Scientology it's outward facing, forward facing mission of saving humanity and doing all these good things for the betterment of society. And that's the reality of the social field. You know, that's the thing that a lot of people are like stuck in. So,
well, and then the other point I just wanted to make, and I don't expect you to know this from the outside, right? But like when Miscavige gave Tom Cruise that IAS event medal, he called Tom Cruise the most dedicated Scientologist I know. And I'm just speaking as a former Sea Org member, and I've talked to Sea Org members who have since left. They took affront to that only because he didn't sign a billion-year contract. He wasn't working around the clock for Scientology. And then Miscavige points out, oh, he's the most dedicated Scientologist I know. You know what I mean? It came across bad as far as Miscavige saying.
Yeah, I can give you my opinion of that.
Yeah, sure.
Because I have a very strong opinion about that. I think when you leave the Sea Org and you hear that, you would be insulted by it. Mm-hmm. But when you're in the bubble, the thinking is all Sea Org members are senior to all public Scientologists. So when he said the most dedicated Scientologist, he wasn't saying the most dedicated person in Scientology. He was saying the most dedicated person who's not in the Sea Org.
Okay, I understand.
That's how you're person.
Yeah, that's public, because if he was ever going to celebrate a Sea Org member that way, he wouldn't call them a Scientologist. He would say,
you know what? He has never acknowledged any Sea Org members that way.
No, of course not. But let's just say that he decided that there was going to be a medal for Sea Org members, which there never will be, because nobody even knows how to do anything except him, right?
That's right.
Why would he give anybody a medal? But let's just say he did. He would say the most dedicated Sea Org member. He wouldn't say Scientologist. I'm just saying that to give you the idea, not as a hypothetical that would ever happen.
Yeah.
But if it did happen, I'm trying to just give you an analogy to understand the difference between saying to a non-Sea Org person, which Tom is, the most dedicated Scientologist in the world. He's the most dedicated Scientologist in the world who's not a Sea Org member.
I understand.
Right.
I understand.
And I'm not defending it of any of that. I'm just telling you the mindset. Please, don't stick me with that like that's my mindset. Of course not,
Mitch. No,
I'm not talking to you.
We're talking.
I'm not talking to you. Yeah. I'm talking to the few people out there that are a pit bull running after a meat truck and want me to toss a bloody steak at them so they can chew it up and they'll be really satisfied. You know, the people that slow down at an accident on the freeway and they're really disappointed because they didn't get to see a decapitated.
Yeah, no, I understand.
You know, those folks.
Okay, hey, listen, we're going to go to the questions now. Is that all right?
Hey, please. Yeah, please, because I'm running out of breath. So.
No, that's okay. No problem. Hey, listen, viewers, if you've got a question now, get into the chat, all right? Write question in front of it. Super chat us if you want to. Super sticker us if you want to. We've already got some star. Janis, if you'll star any new ones, that would be great. Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and put them up here. And you can ask Mitch whatever you'd like, okay? So let me go ahead and start this up here, okay? Oliver Page says, "Hey Mitch, well done, well out." Ollie Page,
I know Oliver Page.
Hi Osa, Dave, retire now, okay? Okay.
Wait, say that. What was the thing about retire? What?
Oh, Dave can retire now, okay?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hi Oliver. Nice to hear from you again. I could tell you a funny Oliver Page story, but I don't know.
Okay, is that somebody you know?
Does he have a question? Yeah, he's an actor.
Oh, okay.
You know that film? You guys might have been involved in it. The Cycle of Communication, the one that was shot on the golf course next to goal.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we remade that film, and Oliver was one of the actors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and one day I'm gonna just apologize. Can I apologize to him publicly?
Sure.
We weren't supposed to do this, but we were having golf cart races, right? Which we were not supposed to do. We weren't supposed to abuse the golf carts. So I grabbed a rope, and there's lots of rope on film sets. I grabbed a rope and I tied it to the bumper of Oliver's cart, and then I tied the other end to a tree.
Oh no!
Fortunately, he parked next to a small tree, and then really made a big deal about challenging to a race.
That sounds like a Caddyshack.
Yeah, we both took off, and he's, was leaning forward with his wheels spinning, watching me take off. And anyway, sorry, Oliver.
2 quick points I want to ask you.
Sure.
I've never seen any of your reshot films because they're not available anywhere. I mean, is there anywhere to see them?
No, they never will be. They're locked down in the orgs on hard drives. They're like a Mission Impossible hard drives. Like if you went to open one, it would turn into smoke and catch fire.
Yeah.
So
I've only heard. I bet they're really professional and good. Go ahead, Janis.
Do you have to take a course at the org in order to see those films?
Well, the training films, they can only be seen, that what are called the technical training films. There's essentially 26 of them, and then they pulled some versions of them that they use for drilling. So but the core films, there's 26. You can only see those films if you're enrolled on a course in what's called the Academy. An Academy of Scientology exists within, the class 5 orgs, right? They have academies of Scientology, and you have a check sheet that lays out what your study is on each. The academy levels are where you learn to audit, right?
Yeah.
Levels 0 to 4, so you can audit grade 0 to 4 and become a class 4 auditor. And then each one of those courses has corresponding films. Some of the films are on lower courses. Some of them are only on some upper courses. But I think everyone sees the one. Well, it's been redone, but I originally did it with Jason Begay, where he is being audited, and then the crime that comes out is that he drugged and raped his best friend's girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah, I heard Mark Haley talking about that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that more. When the Danny Masterson story broke, the first thing I thought was, oh wow, that's like right out of one of Hubbard's films. I mean, I don't know why he chose that for a crime. They just needed the guy to have committed a fictional crime. I don't know why he picked. I don't know why he picked that one. But to answer your question, you cannot see them unless you're enrolled on a particular auditing course, and that is mandated by policy. There's a policy about the use of films in training, and it basically says no one is allowed. Now, I think some of the staff, certain staff at the org, can see them outside of training. Mm-hmm. And but it's pretty restricted.
Yeah. Even the public films, though, right? Aren't they restricted to?
No. Like orientation, no. Just go when they want to sign up, watch the film, and then don't go back. Give them a fake name. Don't go back. It would be fine. They're not going to track you down. No, there's a number of public films. There's There's actually two of the films. The technical training films are public films. One is called Man the Unfathomable, which you can see at in any public division. You can walk in and see it. Mm-hmm. And the other is called TRs in Life, which you can
the
also
one with Isaac Hayes, because somebody asked.
No, Isaac Hayes is in a film called TR5. Each of these films, they break down like this. 10 of the films deal with the E-meter. The focus is on the E-meter. Those are called the EM films after E-meter. And there's 10 of those, so they're EM 1 through 10. You get it? Because everything has to be coded in Scientology.
Right.
The other 6 films, 20 films. 20. Well, I don't do math well. I worked for a cult for 30 years, so even though I'm college educated, but I'm stealing Aaron's line.
Yeah, I know you.
And wearing black because he looks so good in black.
You look good though.
Okay, thanks. I always wear black. It makes me look skinnier and younger. But anyway, so the other films deal with TRs, which are training routines. You've told your reviewers about those, and so TRs in life is TR1, which people can see. It's a bunch of scenarios that show you how knowing these communication skills can help you in life. I'm particularly proud of that film because I shot it in black and white. I always wanted to make a black and white film, not just print it in black and white, but make it in black and white, shoot it on black and white. So we converted the Gold Lab at great expense over to processing black and white, which is more expensive than color because it uses silver and all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you can walk in and see that. It's a pretty cool film. And they won't have to reshoot any of those films because my name's not on them. So, so you got TR1, TRs in Life, and EM1, Man the Unfathomable. Those are both public films. You can walk in and film. But the Isaac Hayes one, okay, that's called TR5. And the title of the film is Why TRs. And the premise of the film, hey, if you have questions, interrupt me.
No, you're doing good. Keep going.
Okay, so the premise of that film is there's a book. I should have restudied this before we went on. The premise of the book, I think it's in Hubbard's book called Dynamics of Life, okay? In that book, there's these 3 rules that you have to learn as an auditor. These rules are very important. You know these rules. You'll know it when I say it, although I probably will have forgotten them. One is that the pre-clear plus the auditor is bigger than the reactive mind. Right? Remember that? And the auditor, the PC is less than the reactive mind. And the point is that only an auditor together with only a person together with an auditor can overcome the reactive mind. And that's kind of the main lesson of the film.
Right.
And so basically the film features a platform in space that somehow has an atmosphere. I don't know how it has an atmosphere, but it's in space. And Hubbard wrote that there is this wise old man, kind of like Gandalf is what he looks like without the hat. Long gray hair, long gray beard, white beard, in a robe. And he tells the story about a 15-year-old kid a Scientologist who comes back on another planet, and we pick him up at 15, and he's on a planet with no Scientology. So he has to teach Scientology. So the whole point of the film is to teach about those 3 rules, but it's to say, you better learn this stuff because next lifetime you might come back on a planet where there's no Scientology, and then you're going to have to teach it. So, I had to invent an alien language, which was a lot of fun. The script didn't say to do that, but it just said you never heard them. But I was like, no, I want to hear them. So I created an alien language, enough that they could get through, not a whole language.
And then what did Isaac Hayes play?
Okay, so then, thanks for reining me in. That's just my ADHD. I looked at this description of this tall, old, white dude with a gray beard, and I went, I think I'd rather use Isaac Hayes. Because Isaac is kind of the black version of that dude, and he's beloved. I mean, he's known as the Black Moses, and he was a treasurer for Scientology. We all loved him. I knew Isaac. And so that was my idea. I pitched it to Miscavige, and he was like, absolutely. And because Isaac, a lot of people don't know, but he was legitimately an African king. He was the descendants of royalty from Ghana. Yeah, and so he had gone back to Ghana, and he had been anointed as a king in the original tribe of his homeland, right? And you know how they dress in these beautiful velvet robes with all the colors and these hats.
Yeah.
So we designed a costume for Isaac. that would have been appropriate for an African king. And that's how he appeared in the film. And it's a pretty amazing film. So unfortunately, the kid who starred in it was Johnny Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was 15 years old, and I'd known him for a few years. Incredibly talented actor. I mean, I just loved this kid. And, you know, then what happened to him, he went on and he co-starred on, what was it? Why can't I remember the motorcycle film?
Wasn't he killed?
Yeah, he killed his, Sons of Anarchy. I kept thinking Dukes of Hazzard. But
Sons of Anarchy, yeah.
It's the same ring. Sons of Anarchy. But anyway, then he had some kind of psychotic break, and he killed his landlady, who was this really well-known, liked woman in the acting community because she'd taken in a bunch of young actors. She killed him. He killed her. He killed her two cats, and then he killed himself. And so we had to remake the film, and it was so tragic.
It's tragic, yeah.
What happened?
Well, let me ask you this now: were you around when Isaac Hayes, when the whole South Park issue came out?
Yeah, but let me just say,
it was tragic what happened to him too.
Yeah, but let me just say, because Isaac appeared in that film all by himself.
Yeah.
And then we would cut away. He'd tell the story, and then we would cut away to the story. We had a device on the set, like a huge lens that we could go into, and it would transport us to another world. So Isaac told the story, and as a result of that, and because it was shot on 35 millimeter film, we were able to keep all of his shots. We reshot the film and then integrated him into it. So fortunately, that work that he did lives on. But before we get into that other story, and we will, when I pitched him for the film, he was living in New York and doing a radio show. And it was a pretty heavy commitment he had, so he was not able to do the film. He really wanted to do it. The only time he had was on weekends. So then Tommy Davis, who was still working as a celebrity wrangler at CC, would get on a plane and fly to New York, and grab Isaac and then fly back to LA, and then he would drill his lines with him on the plane. Wow. And then we'd have him for a day and a half. Yeah. And I think we did it in 3 or 4 weekends, and we were done. But he really wanted to do it. It was the South Park thing. I mean, I remember when it happened. It was tragic. I mean, it was screwed up that they made him leave the show, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Scientology made him leave the show, right?
Yeah,
they demanded he leave.
Yeah.
He was chef on South Park.
Yeah, I know. He was chef, and they were doing all. Exactly. But they insisted that he leave. And I think Isaac was of the mindset that was the right thing to do, because Isaac was in. Yeah. I don't think he suffered from that. I mean, I don't. I think he
wasn't in the episode, if I recall.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. But I know Isaac as a performer, as performers do, like as I mentioned about Tom and his fans, their fans are important to them. And he did really have to disappoint a lot of his fans by leaving. Yeah. Because people love Chef. Yeah. I mean, they're still quoting Chef. Yeah.
Exactly. I just wanted, for our viewers, in case you don't know what we're talking about, South Park did the famous episode about Scientology in OT3. And Isaac Hayes was the voice of Chef, who was the popular character on South Park. And when this episode came out, he basically made a stand. He had to make a stand, and he was no longer on the South Park show because they basically were attacking his religion. And, it was a shame, because I'm sure he was making good money as Chef. And, that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I'm sure that was a reckoning for Isaac, but he was in. He went along with it. He got to make a statement.
Let's go to the next questions, okay? We'll go through here now. This is more of a comment. Question. No. Sorry, Diane Jean Velasilio. More of a comment. You're awesome. Ignore the Google psychologists. They have no clue. You're still working this out, and it takes time. I look forward to your book. Thank you very much, Diane.
Yeah, thanks for that comment.
You're
awesome just for making the comment.
Yeah, we're all peeling the onion.
Yeah,
that's right. That's the name of our channel.
I kind of like my onions caramelized, so.
All right, we got Mary Sue Hubbard in the house. Then question, thank you for being here, and especially for providing confirmation that Marty has been paid off. Why do you think they had him do those videos when the charade seems obvious? To hurt him?
Okay, so let me just say 2 things. First, I didn't confirm that he was paid off. I provided anecdotal evidence that gave more confirmation to the speculation.
Yeah.
But I don't have actual confirmation that he was paid off.
Right.
I personally don't see any other way that any of that could have happened if he wasn't paid off. And the instant that Miscavige came in the room and said, "Marty's back," I was like, "Oh, Marty's paid off." I mean, I didn't think for a second Marty was coming back into Scientology. Just my mindset was a deal has been struck. That's all. You know, you can make that's just my impression. I don't have any like right. Actual confirmation of it. But I had been asked. So once he said that, I was asked, because I was at S&P, and I was asked to do the camera planning. We don't have a date for the shoot, but we need to be ready to go. We brought in an outside cinematographer who I knew, who I'd worked with, who's not a Scientologist, very good guy, very talented. A guy who, before I knew him, he had shot the CSD vaults for the church because they can't allow the gold crew to go up there because they don't trust them. So they brought in an outside team. And so I had a meeting with this guy, and we got it was going to be done in a hotel suite within an hour of his house. There were all these things were laid out. And, and Miscavige wanted planning. How many cameras you're going to do? We were going to do 2, broadcast quality video cameras, back to back, and then maybe 5 GoPros, and what position we were going to put them in. And we had all these diagrams. So I worked out the package on this is the package we're going to use to shoot Marty. And then I got in a bunch of trouble for whatever, which eventually happens to everybody. And they decided I should go back to gold. And so I didn't shoot those. They looked to me like they were shot by the gold crew because I'd worked with these guys for so long. Like, I know exactly how
do you know who they sent down? Like you said, they shot near his home. So they shot it in Texas?
Yeah. Well, that was the plan when I was working on the plan.
Yeah.
I wasn't there when it happened.
Okay, I get it.
But as far as I could, if they followed that plan, then it was shot in a hotel suite, right? Like a Four Seasons type of suite somewhere within, driving distance of, I guess he lives in Port Arthur or whatever.
Yeah, way south. Yeah.
Corpus Christi.
Let me ask you another question. Do you know who was asking him the questions or who he was talking to?
Who was the interviewer?
Yeah, like because you don't see the interviewer, but
I don't know. I mean, originally I would have done it, but I had so much animosity with Marty. I would have.
Oh no, that's okay.
I would have said, I'll do it if I can beat the living shit out of him first, and then I'll do it. So
and then here's the other question. Somebody sent me a question to ask too. Like when you did your video on Ron Miscavige Sr. Who was interviewing you or asking you the questions off camera?
I was asking myself.
Okay, so there was no DM or.
And there was somebody there, but I was basically going, okay, ask me this. Okay, ask me this.
Okay.
Yeah, I was, because I would always, it's whatever. I mean, that was a job. Like, what was I going to say? The worst thing Ron Miscavige ever did. Let me tell you people about Ron Miscavige. He raised a monster. What was I going to say that?
Yeah.
But right.
No, but so, it's like if they asked. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I want to go back to Marty. I was going to bring up when, they asked about the payoff or whatever. I know a lot of us have all assumed he was paid off because apparently shortly after he withdrew from that lawsuit, before he did those videos, he put $100,000 down on a house. And I was like, where did he get that money from? And then I know myself and other people, our speculation was that they also somehow had some blackmail material on him that he withdrew from everything.
I don't think so. I think, there is no other plausible scenario other than they were paid off. And even though the lawyers who were burned because they lost their ability to collect, you could make an argument. And they, from what I understand, those lawyers bitched and moaned about it. But you could make an argument that they were secretly paid off too, and also bitched and moaned at it because they wanted to save face. From being paid off. You get what I'm saying? And the whole thing was just.
I know Ray Jeffries.
The whole thing was just a charade. And the thing is, I told you guys. I think I told you guys before. Like, Marty's wife was never in Scientology. And, Osa was sending like dildos to her workplace. I mean, they were torturing and tormenting these people. And, they'd adopted a child. They wanted to have a nice life. Miscavige would love to tell us like, oh yeah, Marty, they adopted a kid just so he could get better welfare checks. I mean, just really toxic shit.
But that doesn't explain why he did such an about face like he did.
Money doesn't. Money, you can do anything with enough money. Money does explain that. Okay, so here's your two possibilities. You're at a fork in the road. One fork is you're going to continue to be harassed by the Church of Scientology. You're going to be living off your wife's income. You have probably no hope of employment on your own. You tried to run independent Scientology, and you told people, pay me what you want. That didn't work. Then Jason Piquet, my dear friend, who I lost touch with, showed up and grabbed Marty and pulled him out of the woodwork, and he became this big, outspoken critic. And so, but that doesn't, that just accelerate the damage, the threats and the violence that the church was doing against him. And so the other outcome is you get a shit ton of money. You can live comfortably for the rest of your life. All you have to do is speak out against the people that were your friends. Which one are you going to do? It's a hard decision to make.
Yeah.
Well, and then I want to add that Marty has always been willing to do the unthinkable for Scientology and for Miscavige, including, and he's admitted this, destroying evidence in the Lisa McPherson case. So, the fact that he flipped on his friends, that's not above him.
Yeah. The whole Scientology universe is extremely abnormal. It's so abnormal that it even includes things like what Marty did. Yeah. Those are the kind of celestial bodies that float around in the Scientology universe. I think he wanted a way to get permanently out of the whole thing. That's just my conjecture. Yeah. And the best way to do it was to just take a golden parachute and get the fuck out. And that's what he did.
Janis, you have anything else you want to say?
No, let's see if we get any questions on it. But I have my beliefs on.
Yeah.
The blackmail aspect of it? Which aspect are you? I'm sorry, Janis. Which aspect?
It held something over his head for him to have done that switch.
I can't imagine what. I mean, I can't, for enough money. I mean, I don't know. You don't, like we talked about the other day, you don't really have friends in the Sea Org because you can't confide in anybody.
And it's all speculation. So, we're speculating here anyway.
Yeah, so it's just, think about it like this. Okay, how long was Marty out there doing his, Marty thing, attacking the church? How long was he out there before finally the whole thing came to a head and he said, okay, uncle, I'll take the money. If Miscavige had that kind of blackmail, he would have used it instantly. He would have said, Marty, shut up. I got the photos of you fucking the sheep, and I'm going to put them out there if you don't shut up. He would have done it immediately. He wouldn't have waited all that time.
Yeah,
unless they found something new.
Yeah, that's true. They do have some really powerful investigative tools at their disposal. Yeah. But what would they have found?
I thought Marty had done something, and DM has probably done something, or Marty knew something about DM, and that's why. But then they realized they had something over Marty, and they flipped it.
We don't know that, though, right?
We don't know.
I don't know.
This is my speculation.
Yeah, I mean, we could just sort of go like,
I know. So that's
down a million. What would it be that had any power? Maybe Marty, because anything he did when he was in would probably also implicate Miscavige, like with the IRS or anything like that. Absolutely. So it's kind of like they're not going to do that. I just think it was money, 100%.
Yeah.
I think because he was married and he had a kid. Yeah. And you start thinking, when you have a kid, the thing you really think about is your future. The future becomes a whole different deal. Because you've got this kid, you're going to raise a kid, the kid's going to go to college. What's going to happen to my kid? They weren't going to have a good outcome the way things were going.
Yeah.
And the lawsuit was destroying them as a family. So,
and also let's be honest too. They actually were winning the lawsuit. They were winning, but they were getting to the point where they were going to be deposing David Miscavige, right? And that makes David Miscavige go, settle, get it out of the way, pay it off.
That's worth a lot of money.
They'll fight it in court all the way as long as they're winning.
Yeah.
But when it looks like they're going to lose, look what happened that they did with Debbie Cook. Same thing. Boom, they folded their tent and paid her off.
Yeah, but I think we need to turn the page on Marty, not just in this conversation, but just period. I mean, Marty did some nasty things.
Chatting, that's all.
Yeah,
it's a fun little, people.
Yeah, no, I get it. He did some nasty things. I was, we've heard a lot about children, adolescents, 12, 14 years old, sex checking adults, like adult men, about in some cases very perverse sexual stuff.
Yes.
I can tell you, I was, when I consider Marty to be an emotional vampire, and so he didn't feast on blood. He feasted on the kind of fear, emotional fear of other people. So that's kind of that was his supply, right? Yeah. And during the time when Miscavige was in Clearwater dealing with the McPherson stuff, Marty had free reign to sort of terrorize the gold base. And I don't know how, but one day I ended up on the menu, and he pulled me in for a sec check. And he had this 14-year-old protege, this girl who's left the Sea York. She would be in her 30s today, or maybe 40. And so we're in the sec check, and she starts, I noticed she's kind of cocking her head. She's got an earpiece. She's wearing an earpiece. And then I can hear Marty's voice in the earpiece, like the bleed when somebody's wearing, their earpods too loud. You can hear the bleed. And I can sort of tell it's Marty's voice. And she starts asking me questions that I'm of the most disgusting, pornographic, perverse, right? And he's screaming these in her ear. And then she's repeating them. So this is like a level of sexual abuse of a child that is unbelievable. And he didn't think anything of it. Fortunately, after he left, she came to see me. She was still in RTC. She was in AVC, and she came to see me. And she kind of sat down and gave me a look that, like, when a person looks at you that way, it's kind of says, I'm sorry. Yeah. I apologize. And then, we kind of talked it out. And she was like, if you ever need any help, I got your back, from her post. So that was fortunate, but he never paid any of those repercussions. I hope he's found a way that he can sort of heal from that stuff, because he has a family now and he has a child, and he did that stuff.
All right, we got to get to these questions here, so let's move on here. Also, here's another comment. Thanks for that, Mitch, for telling that. Donna Dwyer, love to hear the perspective of Mitch, fresh and raw. Don't read the negative comments. They don't know you or your story. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I didn't really I have a pretty thick skin, and I'm very familiar. Some of them, for a minute, they gave me pause. Also, once Anonymous hit, I was full bore on the team, pushing back against them and dealing with the church's social media and the church's internet presence. So I've had a lot of experience.
Okay. Next one, Degraded Daughters of Dianetics, just popping in.
Hey.
Our support for just popping in to show our support for Mitch. It
Great.
is so powerful when one is this brave, and after going through what he has, wish all our parents could talk. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that comment. Yeah. We've got a super chat here from Jorge Alvia. Hey, Mitch, what can you say about Yolanda Avila?
Yolanda, refresh my memory. Yolanda was in Cine. And I think she was in the art department. I'm not sure. But I worked with her. She was like one of the crew people. I don't have a lot to say. She was
I don't even know who she is. That probably was after.
Yeah, I know who she is. She was a pleasant person. I mean, if it's the Yolanda that I worked with. There's a lot of very pleasant people up there.
She must be related to Jorge because they have the same last name. So.
Yeah. But if you ask me a specific question, I think she might have worked in sets and props. I'm not sure, but I did work with her. She's somebody that I never had a problem with.
Right. Okay, great. Well, thanks very much, Jorge, for that super chat. Here we go for the next thing here. Jen, hey, everyone. Janis, I received your lovely canvas bag and will be taking it to the beach this weekend. Thank you. That was one of our giveaways. Great, Jen.
Oh, nice.
Glad you enjoy it. Okay. Let's see here. We've got some Kim Lost. Did you know Georgiana Shafran, maiden name? I saw her with COB, David Miscavige, in 2010 on the Free Winds. I went to school with her and always wondered about her path after that, since I never hear her name.
Is that Georgiana Irons?
Yeah, we called her George. Is that the person?
Well,
Georgiana
Shafran. Yeah.
Is that the same person?
I don't think so, Janis, but
okay.
it was. I think she wasn't she Dave's Shelly's steward, like distributing meals? Do you know anything about her?
I mean, not really. She was part of the entourage. She did. She was part like a steward, but she was, she was a purchaser, like clothes and things, and would arrange. She was like a kind of a stylist, like a lifestyle person who would help to procure, clothes, fashionable stuff, and coordinate, shopping and things, and food, and she's just part of his staff. So she's a nice person.
Thanks very much, Kim, for that question. We got Donna Dwyer.
It says Georgiana Somerville. So she must have married Ron Somerville?
Yeah, she was married to Ron Somerville.
Mitch, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. My mic. Can you? Am I good now? Am I good?
A little bit. That's better.
Yeah, sorry about that. A little bit. Hold on. How's that?
That's better. That's better now.
Yeah, it's cranking.
I think they are talking about Georgiana Irons, Lynn Irons' daughter. She was in the CMO when I was there. Tall girl.
Tall. She's dark hair. Yeah, she's on Miscavige's staff. She's just He has a lot of people on his staff. Thanks,
Kim, for that question. We'll go to the next one. Donna Dwyer back. Is Mitch saying that David Miscavige hasn't been back to gold? I think I zoned out. You said he hasn't been there since 2014.
Yeah, what did she say? I think I found out. What is
it? She's zoned out. She's
zoned out.
Yeah.
No, he's never going back. I mean, the last time I was there was probably, right before the pandemic lockdown hit in early 2020. No, he's never going back.
Who's in charge if he's not there? Is it Lisa Allen or whoever the CEO?
Sure. No, Lisa is thankfully she's to be my assistant. You knew that, right?
Yeah, I didn't, but I knew Lisa really well.
Yeah, and she got busted out of CMO.
Yeah,
and then she somehow. Greg Wilher walked into my office one day and noticed how busy I was. Not just busy, I was just like overwhelmed. And he said, "You need an assistant." Next thing I know, this woman, Lisa, showed up. We became very good friends because the post was created for her. It wasn't an assistant director; it was the director's assistant, and that post was created for her. And because I was like, BMOC, as Mike Rinder used to say, big man on campus, in terms of getting all those films done, it was anybody working close with me was totally on Miscavige's radar. And so then Lisa was able to kind of use being my assistant as a springboard to become the commanding officer of Gold. And then from there, she went to the RPF in LA, and then she went into the Hole. And today she is the seamstress in the laundry room. So at least that was her last post. Because after they closed the Hole, she walked up to me and asked me if I needed any mending done. But that doesn't answer your question about who's in charge.
No, that's okay. I thought.
Well, there's a woman who is the CEO of Gold, who's one of the saner executives I think they've ever had, who really cares about the crew. And I think Gold as a SEARG member today is an ideal place to be because there's no
Miscavige.
Yeah, there's no Miscavige. I mean, there's still a heavy RTC presence up. There's an RTC presence up there. Obviously, he left a $40 million office and a lot of his personal belongings, cars and motorcycles and things.
Yeah, but when you say that, it was always great when he was in Los Angeles when I worked for him. Yeah, remember? The base was wonderful when he wasn't there. When he was there, it was terrible.
You could feel when he came on the base, it just sounded heavy.
Yeah, everybody was freaked out. So, So he has staff up there.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Handle traffic in between Gold. I mean, Gold is still. We didn't fully answer the question about what they do, but it's still people were very confused when Scientology Media Productions started because they thought, maybe he had abandoned Gold. But like, here's the deal. Gold was set up to do films.
Right.
And when the events happened, that was very intrusive on the production of Gold. And he always said, I want to get events out of here. I don't want events to be at Gold because they never should be.
Right.
So it's one of the reasons why he opened up the studio. One of the reasons he opened up the studio in LA was to get marketing and to get events out of Gold because they were a distraction to mainline production.
Go ahead, Janis, you're next. Go ahead.
Okay, I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Who is the CO Gold that you were just referring to?
We don't need to.
Oh,
no reason
okay.
To,
I just wanted to know if I
let them
knew
do
her.
their thing.
The other
question.
I'll tell you later, but it's just like,
okay.
My other question if she had ever, like, if I felt she needed to be called out because she had done something, I would do it. But she doesn't. She's a good person.
I just thought it'd be nice to compliment somebody for once, because we keep calling people out. But that's okay.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. I am complimenting her, but she doesn't need to be publicly complimented.
Okay. My other question is, you said, Lisa, when the hole was closed down, can you talk more about what happened on the closing of the hole?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I never knew it existed. Okay. Like, believe it or not, it was happening. Right. It was happening 100 yards from where I ate lunch every day. And I walked by there on my way to the music studio. I never knew it existed. Every staff member at Gold knew it existed. HCO Gold, the ethics department, in which the security guards are members of that department, they knew. I mean, that entire operation was being run by Gold, and there, there's still HCO. There's guys in HCO up there that ran it and probably think it's okay. I know one gal who's in HCO. Her sister was in the hole, and she probably thinks that it was okay. I don't know. So, but when Going Clear hit the documentary, I was kind of transitioned onto this. There was this mission creep. I don't know how else to explain it. I was there to do films, and then Anonymous hit, and it was like, hey, you need to work with us on maybe some PR solutions on how to counter Anonymous. So I worked on that stuff. There was like a dream team, whatever, set up, like lawyers and PR guys and Miscavige and some other people. And we all sat in a war room and figured out what the fuck we're going to do about Anonymous, which is a really interesting story. We can do a whole 2 hours on that sometime.
Okay.
But
we need to move on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please. You just got to wrangle.
Here was my question, but this is from a viewer. Duchess of Chug question: does Mitch have any idea what DM is doing now and what he was doing last he knew? I was going to ask you, if he's not at Gold, so is he in LA or?
I don't know. I'm not.
No, but I mean, but you said last time he was there was 2014. So where did you interact with him after that in LA?
Oh yeah. So in 2014, he'd left Gold and he set up shop at ASI.
Okay.
And then he was living at, what is the name of the place behind ASI?
Yeah.
Yeah. That building they bought. I think he was living there on ASI, some ASI stuff with him. So I worked with him there. It was great place to work. Very pleasant. I mean, we had a lot of fun. I was writing scripts and
did he have offices at the Scientology Media Productions?
Oh, absolutely. That became then. So I'm trying to think. Whenever it was about. When did they open up? What was it opening? I forgot. 2016?
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you'd have to look. It's on Wikipedia. So we moved from ASI. Then we started working over there before it was open. And they were doing a lot of hate sites. That's where I read your hate site. Right. And I didn't really know you. I didn't even know who you were. But I would be asked to look at these and not likely. This is Mark Fisher, right? Blah, blah, blah.
Hey, you know what? One second, Mitch. You know what I found out yesterday? Because Mark Hedley sent me our hate files, right, that he had.
Yeah.
I found out that OSA, my code name with DM and OSA is Mofo. And I wear that badge greatly. I'm a bad mofo.
Yeah, I'm going to start calling you that. That's awesome.
I'll start introducing him as the Mofo.
Mr. Mofo.
Yeah, we're here today with Mark Fisher, aka Mofo.
I guess so.
Or you could be Mark Mofo Fisher.
Yeah.
You could do it like that. Yeah, everybody loves to own the shit they dump on people because they're tone deaf. They think they're dumping something on somebody that's gonna like.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just had to interject.
I forgot what we were talking about.
Oh, you were talking about the office.
And that's not my PTSD, people. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you were telling us about how you got over at SMP. You were watching my hate site and all that stuff.
Yeah. So we went over there and started working out of there before it opened, right? Because it was functional. The exterior was essentially done, except some of the hardscape.
Right. Let me go to the next question.
So we were working over there. He was still working at. Your question is, did he have an office there? He was still working at ASI. Then when SMP was fully done, I don't know why, but I never saw his office there. He had a very nice office, I know, at SMP. And essentially that's where he worked out of. That became his headquarters. Then the pandemic hit, and that's when he moved to Flag and set up his headquarters there. And then, I don't know, he could be back in LA. I don't know, because I'm like,
okay. I think he's in Clearwater. I mean, there's been sightings of him in Florida.
I think the balance, the polar balance, the polar whatever it is, the axis has shifted to Clearwater, because everybody I know so many people that Scientologists are just moving to Clearwater. Everybody wants to get out of LA, and I think there's a lot of reasons if you're a Scientologist to live in Clearwater. So I think he does. I think he probably, if you ask me to guess, I think Clearwater is his. I mean, you could probably tell from they make announcements about graduations, and he speaks at a lot of graduations.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's go to the next question.
I also don't care where the fuck he is.
No, I understand.
I was trying to read that super chat. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, here we go. We got a new super chat here from Denver Stevo. Thanks very much, Denver Stevo. Mitch, you share a message that others could learn from. Nobody is just one thing. Not to excuse bad behaviors, but to provide the full picture, much like Janis and Mark do regarding L. Ron Hubbard. Thank you. He's right.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, if somebody, if somebody develops a vaccine that could cure cancer, you wouldn't care if they had extramarital affairs. Do you know what I mean? It's just, if they're doing something good and everybody's got foibles and problems,
Yeah, unless they had championed against, they had championed for fidelity in marriage and destroyed other people's lives for being unfaithful, and then they were unfaithful. You have to spread that shit everywhere. Yeah. So that's why Dave is getting called out, because he's banished his wife to a mountain compound, and he's in a sexual relationship with his assistant. So it's like.
Okay, thanks, Denver Stevo. We got another question here.
Yeah, thanks, Stevo.
Jill Harrison, question: do you think Tom Cruise ever wonders where people like you went? One day you're there, and next day you're gone.
No. I was never visible enough to Tom Cruise for him to notice that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if we went shopping at the same mall, I'm sure he would know that he should not interact with me.
No, but he's close enough to Dave that I'm sure he knows where Shelly is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know why you say that.
Well, I'm just saying, wouldn't he go like, "Hey, where's Shelly?" You know what I mean?
No, he wouldn't.
He wouldn't?
He wouldn't.
Why do you say that?
Because he could or he could not. That's not my dog. I got a lot of flack for not handling my dog, so now I'm. Where the hell is my dog? Oh, he's such a good puppy. He's asleep. He's learned that when I'm in this situation, he needs to just go take a nap.
Okay, I'm back. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. So why? That's not a guaranteed thing that like they would sit down and have a drink and go, yeah, my wife, she just like, I can't deal with that shit, so I sent her away. That's cool, Dave.
Wouldn't Tom notice?
Wouldn't you notice it's been 15 years she's not there?
Of course. But I mean, Tom, he like Shelly, she went suppressive on Dave. No, right? In the same way, by his definition, in the same way that he left Gold and will never go back because so many people fucked him over there.
Okay, you're talking from his viewpoint.
I'm sorry. I do this thing where
some people are going to take what you're saying as that's what you think, but you're just talking about. That's
no, but I do this because I'm used to talking to actors, and so I'll go up to them and and they get it. They get like what you mean, because they know you and they know that's not you. You're speaking them from the viewpoint of another person. So look, she fucked me over. I'm being Miscavige. She totally fucked me over, and so she's like, I can't have that shit around me. It can't happen. We're not going to make it, Tom. We're not going to make it. If we deal with that shit, we got to make sacrifices. Some of, you can't, so like you don't see your daughter because that's, we got to, we got to really be disciplined about this because we got to make it. And we can't let, you know what I'm saying? We can't be distracted by that shit. Right.
Okay. We're going to move through here. I've got a super sticker here.
Does that make sense? I want to make sure that's a full answer because
that's fine.
It's either like that or they never talk about it. And Tom just doesn't ask because it's like, that's not what their friendship is about. It's not about asking where the hell your wife is. He shows up with Lou. They're having a great time. It's like, fine, she's up doing whatever. It's that weird of a universe where things could go on for years, never talked about. So people need to understand that because they're trying to project their own logical lives onto it. And that doesn't work. Like if my best friend's wife disappeared, we'd be talking about it.
Right.
That's a different universe. This universe is very strange.
No, I get it. I've been there.
Yeah, he may not know about any of this stuff. He may not know. He's so in that, and he's such a talented guy. He's a really special human being who's in this reality distortion field. And he's so much like Miscavige. I think he's getting out of it a little bit, but like Miscavige does this thing, and you know what it is, where he'll use your name a person's name to intimidate them.
Yeah.
Like if I want to intimidate you, I go, okay, listen, Mark. Okay, listen, Mark. And I'll say, Mark, Janis, and I'll use your name over and over again. It's a very intimidating tactic. And I know when he went in to see Fred Goldberg, I think maybe Marty told me about it, but when he walked in there, he was all over that guy, the IRS commissioner. When he went in that bill, finally it demanded that he sat down with him and he said, now, Fred, what? Nobody calls him Fred. He's a fucking IRS commissioner. He's Mr. Goldberg or he's Commissioner Goldberg. But he would walk in and just remember when Tom was talking to Matt Lauer. How did he talk to him? Matt. Now, listen, Matt, you're being glib, Matt.
Oh, yeah. No, he was channeling DM there. Absolutely.
It was, but I'm telling you, that was a very specific technique.
Yeah.
Okay. I started to fall into it when I was on Aaron's channel because he and I we kind of lost our way with each other. There's, we're going to do lots of stuff, and I started saying, Aaron, listen, Aaron. I'm like, I thought about that later and I'm like, okay, piece of cult brain. Let's just pull that out of there and throw it away.
Okay. Can I go ahead? I'm gonna.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
go
okay.
ahead.
We got a super chat from Jen W. Thank you very much, Jen W. And then I've got a super sticker here, and it's a question from Blazin666. Thank you very much. Sorry if answered. I'm late. Mitch has said that Lou filled the romantic void left by Shelly and may have played a role in her disappearance. Had you seen or heard anything that made you think either?
Yeah, but we're not going to go into it today.
Okay.
But the answer is yes, absolutely. I mean, just the fact that I think you're actually framing this wrong, Blaze. You're talking about filling a romantic void. I don't think there's a romance to become a void to fill. I don't think that construct fits into that mentality, that sort of psychopathic, sociopathic mentality. I mean, she was there all along. Right? Lou was there before Shelly left. And then she just kind of transitioned right into it. I personally suspect that she played a role in at least pushing it along. When a fire breaks out, you can put it out or you can throw gasoline on it. I suspect that she threw gasoline on it. Yeah. And because I was around them a lot. And I suspect that, Shelly, I think you can confirm this. She wasn't always with Dave because she was doing other things. They would be together a lot. A lot of it. Sometimes I'd see them together, sometimes not together. Lou is always with Dave. I've never seen her without him. Every meeting I ever had, she's always there. Where before that, I would see him by himself a lot or without her a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I do think that. I mean, I think that's really an underreported aspect of this thing. It's like, I would be very resistant to speaking about somebody's sexual life or romantic life. But in his case, because he has utterly ruined so many Sea Org members' lives over sex and relationships, and because having that relationship with his assistant is forbidden in the Sea Org at the highest level of ethics, he needs to be called out on this because he banished his wife and is having in a relationship with his assistant. And that's the complete picture. It's, people should be, it should be hashtag who is Lou. Like,
yeah,
not just where is Shelly, maybe this is a bad example, but when Jeff Bezos was getting divorced from his wife and he was with this other woman, I can't think of her name, everybody was like, Jeff Bezos left his wife for a younger woman. He didn't. They'd already broken up, and he's engaged to her. I don't know if they're married. And his wife was like, it was with her blessing. She was like, good riddance. They were like done. But yet the press and the public, they needed to think of it as this rich guy dumping his wife for a younger woman, which was not the case, right? But in this case, I don't know why nobody's putting, at least conjecturing, like they were assuming that was the case with Jeff Bezos, and nobody, there's no hashtag who is the mystery woman behind Shelly's disappearance. Yeah. It amazes me. So.
And for all we know, Shelly, she was questioning if David was wearing his wedding ring, but having been gone from him for so long, it might be a relief to her to not have to deal with his crap.
I think so. I think she's happy to be out of the shit show. I think there's things for her to be happy about and things for her to be unhappy about. And one of them is she's not, from the descriptions I heard from that story when she asked Mike about was he wearing a red ring, that kind of intense trauma, that kind of emotional dysregulation, living in that headspace is horrible. It's nothing but, cortisol and adrenaline all day long. And now she's at it's nice up there. The air is really fresh. Yeah. It's, you walk outside, you smell the pine trees. I mean, it's a very limited life and it's lacking all kinds of freedom. But I think.
Okay, we got to move on. I've got to.
No problem.
That question. Aaron just posted a video that had a video of Marty abusing his child. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
There's a whole bunch of chats. Well, we've been talking. Aaron did a thing basically saying that they obviously blackmailed him with a PI video of Marty raising his hand to the child they were adopting.
Really? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
He must have a good source to say that. I don't know, but
well, if they have the video, then there you go. That's the reason.
Yeah, and that's the next question here. This is a super chat again from Denver Steve-O. Tell us more about those really powerful investigative tools you mentioned. That was regarding Marty, how they could find something out. Look, they have private investigators. They have so many different ways to do things.
Yeah, we all know they use law firms as proxies to hire PIs and blah blah blah. They don't have any, they don't have access to NASA, to NSA level satellite stuff or something like that. I wasn't implying that, but it's just like stuff that's not accessible to like you and me. That's just they have a bunch of PIs.
Well, and Janis and I just found out from looking at our files from just 2005 and 2006. They're talking to everybody that are around us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got people that they're in contact with, people who are ex-Scientologists who we're in contact with. You never know who's feeding them information. It's crazy.
Yeah. They knew who was invited to my birthday party and who wasn't coming.
Yeah. To her 50th birthday.
Well, there's nothing they can really do to me.
No, so, I know.
Whatever.
Thanks, Denver Steve. Okay, we got this. Jorge Avilo's back. He the Avila woman, she was my mom. That was her mom.
Well, I can tell you, your mom is a really sweet woman, and I never had anything but positive interaction with her.
It's fabulous. Thanks, Jorge. We appreciate you filling us in on that. And we'll go to the next one here. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm a deculture. Has anyone ever acted as a mole and successfully infiltrated Scientology? I don't know that, and I think they would find out. Listen, you don't understand the power of that e-meter. A good sec checker, and they put you on an e-meter in a locked room. They'll find out anything that you've got that you're hiding.
Yeah, I mean, they probably have been a successful at avoiding being infiltrated as the Hells Angels, who are the most successful group on earth at being avoiding infiltration, because to become a Hells Angel, you have to commit a felony in front of members. Like you have to, I'm not going to say it, but
yeah, I understand.
Yeah, SA, murders, whatever. So Scientology doesn't do that, but they definitely have tools to root out.
Janis, we have a few more questions to answer, but Janis, don't star anymore unless somebody super chats, okay? Because we're going to running out of time here. So we'll go through these next ones here. Thank you very much for that question here. This is a comment from Linda P. Golan. The Onion people, mofo and koala calm. That's talking about me and Janis.
Yeah.
Right, Mark. Right, mofo.
Right. Kim lost. Her mother was Lynn Irons, Georgiana Irons. Yeah, that's.
Let me bring something up on that.
Yeah.
Lynn Irons was the mission holder of San Francisco Mission, and he is a man, not a woman. I don't remember the mother's name, but Lynn was Georgie's father. So that is Georgiana Irons that we're talking about, who, Mark, you and I knew her.
Yeah, I did know her. She was a sweet girl. Okay, next question here. Mitch, this is from Shannon DeMalt. Mitch, is there an email so we can contact you since you don't have a channel? I just wanted to comment on all of your interviews. Is there a way they can comment to you if you don't want to give out your email?
I actually do have a channel. I think it's called Scientology, The Great Big Lie. I have a channel. There's nothing on it yet. I'm going to put a 10-second book promo on there. And then if you subscribe to it, you'll get notified when the book comes out. And there is an email address on there. So let me I can look it up and we'll post it in the comments. Okay. But thanks. Yeah, you can definitely, I have this email that I'm using for this kind of stuff, and I don't remember what it is. I got to look it up.
Janis, they could send an email to us too if we want. We could.
Yeah, they can email me wanting to contact Mitch, and then I can give them an email.
Yeah, this is Janis's email right here. So you can, if you have.
Yeah, you could do that, or you could also reach me at. This is kind of clumsy. Scientology. No, that's not actually the email address. Oh my God, I was not prepared for that. You guys can continue on.
Okay.
That's okay. Next question here. We've got Mary Sue Hubbard again. Question: did you ever observe Dave taking prednisone or using a corticosteroid inhaler? It must be for his asthma.
No, I never did.
I didn't either. Listen, I worked for him for 6 years.
Yeah.
I knew he had asthma, but I never once saw him do anything. He never even used. He had an oxygen tank, but he never used.
Saw him smoke a lot of Camels.
Oh yeah.
All I remember when I first found out he had asthma was Shelly came to Paul's in my room at like 3 o'clock in the morning in a panic because Dave was having an asthma attack. So Paul got up and got Dave to the Loma Linda Hospital and basically saved Dave's life is what it was considered. And we always held that against Paul.
Right.
That's a joke.
Yeah, you can. I looked up the email. I have a Google email called Scientology Scientology the Big Lie @gmail.com, and all one word. Scientology the Big Lie @gmail.com.
Okay. Next question. Thank you, Mary Sue Hubbard. Dastardly Saboteur. Question: did I understand correctly that Sea Org members work for Tom Cruise? Does Tom pay the wages for the Sea Org members that work for him?
I don't think there were any Sea Org members working for him. There were a lot of Scientologists that were working for him. I think there were Sea Org members that did things for him. They were given projects to do, like, John Brousseau has talked a lot about. They designed and built and installed audiovisual systems and they, decked out his hangar at the Santa Monica airport and blah, 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 blah. But on his staff, I don't think there were any SERG members. There were Scientologists.
That's actually a question we need to ask Amy Scobie, because
she knows.
Amy did a whole project getting his household manned up.
Yeah, and they were basically, because I had friends I knew people that they were interviewing for jobs. They were all Scientologists.
Right.
They weren't, none of them were Sea Org members, because that would have been kind of strange. The pay thing would have been strange, and then the living thing, and I guess the one exception would be there'd be a couple like Tommy Davis, definitely worked for him.
Right, but even Amy working to man up his household, that is a Sea Org member working for Tom Cruise.
Right.
Yeah, it is. I mean, she was doing other things as well. That was, I'm sure. Let Amy tell that story. I'm not going to tell, but I assumed at that time that when she was doing that, she would be doing other things as well, because that's not an all-day, 12-hour-a-day job doing that. You have people that are headhunting, and then you're reading the results of it, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, thanks very much for that question. Next question here. Jen,
but the main guy, just let me say, Michael Dovin, who was a Scientologist who was a producer on films for Tom, he had some kind of, he no longer worked for him, but he was an example of a Scientologist who was highly placed in Tom's universe.
Right.
Okay, next question. Jen, are Scientologists allowed or encouraged to vote in elections, and are they told who to vote for? They weren't really when I was in, but I did vote. I made sure I went in and voted when I worked there. I don't know.
Yeah, well, no, at Gould, I can tell you that they are encouraged to vote. They'll help people with transportation. I think they may have even arranged at some point in the later years before I left, arranged to have a polling place at Gould, because they had enough people. And Hubbard had written, you've read it, he wrote a thing saying that it was everybody's civic, responsibility to vote. And there was a very heavy pressure. There was not pressure, but there was definitely inappropriate campaigning within a religious organization, not just for presidential, for elected officials, but for measures. If a measure had anything to do with gay marriage or psychiatry or mental health, you can bet they'd show up, because those two things are a wedge issue for Scientologists. Yeah. Nothing will get Scientologists out to vote. Then there's going to be some bill on the ballot that's going to increase spending for mental health, because they've always fought against that. And also gay marriage. I mean, that's the reason that Paul Haggis left, was that had that whole story with, he has two wonderful gay daughters, and that he's close with, and he just was like, he tried to get Tommy Davis, whatever, I'm not going to go over all that unless you.
Okay, thanks for the question.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, another question from Mary Sue Hubbard. Question: do you remember the name of the restaurant coffee shop near CST where you saw Shelly? That
wasn't me.
Well, no, not the one that when you ran into her. Remember when you ran into her? And
I think it was on Orange Street in Redlands, California, just off the 10. There was a group of restaurants that sort of all shared the same patio. It's one of these places that has a Starbucks and a Chipotle and a Sharky's, and the patio. So it was just on the patio, probably in front of a Chipotle on Orange Street in Redlands, which is, it's straight shot down from the CST base. Yeah. I used to stop there all the time.
Fabulous. And then we got this question here from Dashley Saboteur. Question: you mentioned you spent time playing video games. What games did you play?
I don't think, I was kind of saying that as a category of sort of wasting your time. But yeah, I played a lot of games. I used to play a lot of games with my kids when they were young. But I would play Call of Duty, which I really never liked because I wasn't that good at it, and I'm really too old to be playing video games. But I'm a big defender of video games in terms of brain plasticity. I mean, there's these doctors in Switzerland that did all this research with people who'd had head injuries, and they had them doing first-person shooters and different games and they recovered at an amazing rate. So there's actually this field of study in neurology that uses video games heal people who have neurologic damage. But I played Call of Duty. I played Halo. I was kind of an early Halo adopter. And I played a lot of Overwatch. Those were the kinds of games. I was really into first-person shooters. I really like to kill non-humans, and I like to make shit blow up. So
I'll know that next time we have a zombie attack. Okay.
Yeah, I'm your guy.
Mitch.
I'm pretty good with a sniper rifle. So.
Okay, thanks for that question. That's our last question that we're going to cover. Hey, Mitch, we want to thank you. And before I forget, let me say this before, Mitch, we sign off, and I want to say thank you. Please subscribe to our channel. I haven't asked you once. Janice, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah, they're supposed to smash and slam that subscribe and like button, and also make sure you hit the notification button.
That's right. And we'll have more content like this for you. Hey,
and one last thing, if you subscribe to Scientology, The Big Lie, you'll get nothing because there's nothing on there. I'm going to put some things on there, but if you do go and subscribe, then I'm not asking you to, and you hit the notification bell, you'll get a notification when I actually release the book. And I will put some videos on there, but because I didn't,
You can put this video and our other one up there.
Oh yeah, I could.
Right,
okay, maybe I'll do that. Yeah, because I didn't write my book for money. I didn't write it for revenge, for sure, because I don't think you should write a book for revenge. I think it's a stupid thing to do. You know, revenge is like taking poison and thinking the other guy's going to die.
Exactly.
But you know, I did it because it's like I said, it's the 50-pound sledgehammer that I used to fucking bust the cult brain out of my brain. So there you go.
Yeah, I've written 2 books, and it is therapeutic.
Yeah,
you know?
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. And you go through the shit, and then you kind of throw it away.
Exactly.
Fabulous. So, Mitch, have you got anything else you'd like to say before we end?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much for that.
How about you, Janice? You got anything else?
No, it was great, Mitch, and maybe we'll get back together again and see what we can schedule out here to do another interview.
That would be great. I love you guys. You're the best. Truly.
Thank you.
Mitch, hang on while we play the exit video, and we'll still talk to you in just a minute, okay?
Okay, great.
Bye, everybody, and thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time, okay?
Bye.